sure many of you, if not all of you, have held a tennis racket at least once in your life. But I'm sure a lot of you didn't know that it was actually first played like handball, hitting the ball with your hand and actually hitting against a wall. But I can't even imagine how uncomfortable that would feel, and luckily, before I had to find out, players started coming up with better solutions. So, as most of you may know, this is a tennis racket, and for any tennis player, it can be the key to getting your shots where you want them to go on the court. Growing up with a dad who loved tennis, I picked up a racket and started learning how to swing at a young age. And by learning more about tennis rackets, you'll have a greater understanding of the culture of tennis players. So first, I'll start by discussing how these rackets signify the culture of tennis players, and second, I'll talk about how I identify with the culture. To start off, I'll begin to explain how this object signifies the culture. The tennis racket represents the hard work, dedication, and strategy that are all essential to tennis players. By the 14th century, tennis players started to use not exactly rackets, but it was strings made into a wooden frame. And also by this time, the sport wasn't played against a wall anymore. It was played across an actual net. Years later, new material was being used to create tennis rackets, like aluminum and graphite, and this proved to be much better quality than wood. So now the most important parts of a racket include its stiffness and weight. Also, modern day rackets are way more durable than the wooden rackets that used to crack and split over time. The racket is definitely the most essential tool needed for the game of tennis, aside from the tennis ball. But the task of finding the perfect racket can be a little difficult, considering that there are a lot of things to consider when purchasing one. This can include the racket's weight, control, and durability, which can ultimately provide better comfort and reduce injuries. At first, tennis may seem like a game with just two people hitting a yellow ball back and forth across a net, and it may seem like a game with no meaning to it. Yet, through this game, you learn how to serve the ball, aiming exactly where you want it to go, and realizing that it takes a ton of practice to make it perfect. Of course, learning the rules and techniques is the toughest part when starting to play any sport, but once you've mastered it all, the tennis racket can symbolize overcoming obstacles in your everyday life. Tennis tests your mental stamina, and it can be incredibly challenging at any level. Similar to how strategy is essential when playing a game like chess, it works the same way when playing tennis. The exciting feeling you get when you see a bright yellow ball coming toward you, and soon after, feeling the shudder from your hand is pretty incredible. Now that I've told you how tennis rackets represent the dedication and hard work that's an essential part of the culture, I'll now talk about how I identify with the culture. Early on in life, I dreaded going to tennis practice. Having to wake up early and throughout summer break also, having to wake up early and go to tennis practice was pretty much just torture. But soon enough, it became a normal routine, and I couldn't wait to set foot on the court. I've enjoyed playing tennis because it involves both the mind and body, teaching me how to be more alert, not only in the sport, but also in daily life. Tennis has taught me valuable life lessons. Most importantly, if you want to achieve any goal, sacrifices must be made to reach it. At times, it wasn't an option to go out and watch movies with friends because of an upcoming tournament. But as I matured and became more responsible, I knew that tennis had given me so much more than just discipline. So to conclude, we discovered what tennis rackets can tell us about the culture of tennis players. First, I discussed how these rackets represent the culture, and second, I discussed how I associate with this culture. So whether you've never held a racket or have only been on a tennis court even once in your life, I suggest you pick one up and start swinging. Thank you.